The Emerald Forest, a place very significant to Team RWBY, as this is where their adventure essentially began. By choosing the White Knight relics and the initiation at Beacon Academy, this signaled the formation of Team RWBY, and set these four girls on the path that they now follow. A path that I think is leading them back to the Emerald Forest, a place where they will once again face a choice that will dictate how their adventure concludes. There are many allusions and references to different stories and fairy tales in the world of RWBY. RWBY herself referencing Red Riding Hood, Weiss referencing Snow White, Blake, Beauty and the Beast, Yang and Goldilocks, etc. The list goes on. But there is one story that seems to have many characters referencing it, and may have overarching implications for how the story of RWBY unfolds. And this story is the Wizard of Oz, with having many of the most powerful characters in Remnant referencing it. Ozpin himself referencing the Wizard of Oz. At his side is Glinda, the Good Witch of the South. The rest of the members of his inner circle also referencing this story. Crow being the Scarecrow, Ironwood being the Tin Man, Leo the Cowardly Lion. We're not exactly sure how Theodore, the headmaster of Shade Academy, references this story, but it seems like all of the headmasters do, so it's very likely, and we'll likely find out later on. We also can't forget that Salem herself references this story by being the Wicked Witch of the West, staying secluded in her castle and often sending her minions to do her bidding, being the Grimm and the other members of her inner circle, but also taking the initiative sometimes and doing the work herself, hence why she showed up at the end of Volume 7 to attack Atlas. But there is one character from The Wizard of Oz that, we don't exactly have a concrete reference to, and that is being Dorothy, the protagonist of that story. Now, there's been many theories that have been put out before, and one of those theories is that RWBY is referencing Dorothy as well as referencing Red Riding Hood. And this is my current line of thinking as well, as it would be very fitting for the RWBY storyline, which has so many references to The Wizard of Oz already, to have its main protagonist also reference the main protagonist of The Wizard of Oz. And RWBY has some allusions to Dorothy on top of that, the first of which being her name, referencing the ruby slippers worn by Dorothy in the film adaptation of The Wizard of Oz. But the ruby slippers weren't initially ruby in color. The original story of The Wizard of Oz had Dorothy's magical slippers be silver in color. And conveniently enough, RWBY has silver eyes that also have some magical properties within them relating to the god of light, so the connections are definitely there. And in the Wizard of Oz story, Dorothy sets out on an adventure with a particular destination in mind. She is heading to the Emerald City. And I don't think it's any coincidence that the Emerald Forest carries the name that it does, and that it's surrounding the academy whose headmaster is also the Wizard of Oz. Ozpin intentionally chose the Emerald Forest as the location for the Beacon Academy initiations, where each of the students would make a choice that would dictate how their future unfolds. Ozpin had started leaving things up to fate, let the pieces fall where they may, much like the indecisive king learned throughout the little fairy tale that we got a preview of from the Fairy Tales of Remnant. Ozpin throughout his many lifetimes has learned to sometimes leave things up to fate, that hopefully the students would make the choice that would lead to the formation of their teams that would carry on into the next generation, the will to fight against the Grimm and to carry on the fight against Salem. This is why he built the Beacon Academies, to create the next generation of warriors. And so he chose the Emerald Forest as the location for them to make their choices, as I think this may be a place where he made a significant choice in the past. The Emerald Forest contains within it ruins of an abandoned kingdom, something left by the humans who lived before the modern age of Remnant, as stated in the Volume 1 director's commentary. Now, depending on what they meant by the modern age of Remnant, these could be ruins that were left from, well, before humanity was wiped out by the God of Darkness. It would be quite impressive for ruins to have survived that long, so I kind of doubt that that's the case, but there is a different age in Remnant that I can think of, one ruled by two particularly powerful beings. I think these ruins are the ruins of the kingdom that Ozma and Salem ruled over so many years ago, where Ozma made his choice to follow the task that the God of Light had given him to reunite humanity, realizing that Salem was no longer the woman that he used to know. And there is One slight problem with this, that the ruins, or at least the image of the ruins that we get, and the image that we get of Ozma and Salem's castle don't exactly match, but we didn't see everything surrounding Ozma and Salem's castle, so it could definitely be the same place, and geography would have shifted over hundreds of years, etc. But this is why Ozma chose this location for Beacon Academy, where he would train the next generation of warriors in hopes that the students would make the choice that would lead to teams that would carry on this fight, that would carry on the task, join him in the fight against Salem, and hopefully reunite humanity. Now, considering everything involving this is also revolving around choices being made, this could easily be the place where Ozma, or Ozpin, has chosen to store the Relic of Choice, that there's a separate vault in these ruins somewhere, and that Glinda is currently watching over it. Though I still think that Glinda Goodwitch herself is the Relic of Choice, it could be that she needs to go to a certain location to unlock it, or that there's something else about these ruins that the choice will have to be unlocked. That this is where Team RWBY will have to head with Glinda to obtain the Relic of Choice. It could also be that here, if this is the place where Ozma and Salem had their initial conflict, that this is where they will have their final conflict as well. That all four relics will be brought together in this Emerald Forest, where the conflict initially began between Ozma and Salem. And this is where their conflict will end, where Team RWBY will be faced with the choice to either side with Ozpin, side with Salem, or to reunite all the relics, resummon the gods, hope that humanity is united, or something of the like. Whether one of them will wear the crown in this location and see the choices that they will face in the future, the possible outcomes that they will face, etc. This is going to be a very significant place for the future of RWBY. We probably won't see anything come to fruition with this for volumes and volumes, my guess. If RWBY's going to play out how I think it's going to be, with 3 volumes within each kingdom, 3 for Beacon Academy, then 3 for the Kingdom of Mistral and Haven Academy. We're currently volume 7, 8, and 9 for Atlas, and then the next 3 for Vacuo, and then maybe 13 or 14. I'm hoping RWBY goes that long. We'll get back to Beacon Academy, where the relics will be reunited, where the final battle will take place, though it could be volume 11 or 12, depending on how things play out. But this is my overall thinking, that the Emerald Forest is a reference to the Emerald City from The Wizard of Oz, that The Wizard of Oz has overarching implications for the RWBY storyline in general, with so many characters referencing that story, and that RWBY herself is a reference to Dorothy, the main protagonist of The Wizard of Oz. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Do you have any other interesting ideas as to how the Emerald Forest will be a significant place for the RWBY storyline, or that the ruins in the Emerald Forest reference something else? Maybe they don't reference the ruins of the Great Kingdom led by the Wizard of Oz, the ruins of the Emerald City, if you will, because Ozma and Salem did build their kingdom, were ruling quite powerfully, and were pretty much taking over, as far as I could tell, a large portion of the world. And with that being the case, that definitely could have been the Emerald City, or at least a reference to, and when that kingdom fell, the nature retook it, created the Emerald Forest, and this is what now remains, where Ozpin built Beacon Academy, so hopefully he wouldn't repeat the mistakes of the past, and that he could continue into the future, training the next generation, etc., etc. And there is one more reference to the Emerald City that I want to mention that may be the case, it may be something that I'm reading a bit too much into, but Emerald Sustrai might also be a reference to the Emerald City. In The Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy and her companions got to the Emerald City in seeking the Wizard of Oz, they all saw different things from the Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz conjured illusions to each of them, and his power itself was all an illusion. He was just a normal man. Emerald herself has the power of illusions, making hallucinations for opponents, letting them see what they want to see, or things that she wants them to see. So this could be an allusion in some way, shape, or form to the Emerald City, the powers that the Wizard of Oz displayed at that time, but again, could be something that I'm reading too much into, but let me know your thoughts down below on this little tidbit or the overall story. I'd be interested in seeing what you guys think. If you enjoyed this video, want to see more content like it, RWBY theories, RWBY matches, and the Phoenix Festival tournament, which is coming up soon, make sure to subscribe, join the Guild of the Eternal Flame, tweet me at PhoenixKnight7, join our Discord server, and I'll see you guys in the next video.